How many session tracking methods are there? 4. First one, cookies. Second one, URL rewriting. Third one, HTTP sessions. Fourth one, hidden form fields. In 4 session tracking methods, first one completed, second one completed. Third one, can we implement independently? No. Third one, depending on cookies and URL writing. Either cookies required or URL rewriting required. Okay. So cookies, URL rating completed. Now you're learning these HTTP sessions. Okay. For that, first of all, HTTP session methods I'll give. In HTTP sessions, ID created. So there are separate methods are there. Jakarta.Saulit.http session. Methods. Note down these all. These all methods note down. So get creation time, it returns time. Get ID, it returns ID. Get last accessed time. It is used to set the time interval. It is getting time interval. Getting attribute value. Setting attribute. Remove attribute. It is used to vanish the session ID. If it is new session, it returns true. Old session, it returns false. Note down. Get creation time, get ID, get last accessed time. Seeing the method name only, you can understand what is that method. Only this invalidate nothing but to vanish the session ID. These all HTTP session interface methods. get creation time, get ID, get last accessed time, set max inactive interval, get max inactive interval, get attribute, set attribute, remove attribute. Invalidate is new. See, if we call get creation time, time comes, but time long format comes. This long you have to pass in a util package date class constructor, you'll get a time. Get ID, session ID comes. Session ID, it contains alphanumeric, alphabets also, numerics also. That is the reason string format. Get last accessed time. When that session is last accessed, that time comes. Set max inactive interval. Time period you can set. Say you studied cookies. By default, when cookies are vanished, whenever browser window is closed. Is it possible to set the time interval? Yes. Which method we use? Set max age. Set max age. But here this is. But here by default, note on. By default, sessions are vanished after 30 minutes in Tomcat server. By default, sessions are vanished after 30 minutes in Tomcat server. By default, sessions are vanished after 30 minutes in Tomcat server. After 30 minutes, automatically vanished. If you want to set the time interval, you can set. How much time interval already given, that information we can retrieve. Now, set attribute, name and value pair. You can create. You can retrieve. Say, set cookie, get cookie. Two programs you have seen, no? In set cookie, we created a cookie class object with add cookie method we added. But here, set attribute you have to call. In get cookie program, we call get cookies. But here, get attribute method you have to call. If you want to remove that, remove attribute method you can call. And whenever you call this method, session is vanished. So explicitly, if you want to vanish the session ID, you can use this. Whenever you click on logout hyperlink, then you want to vanish the session ID. In that situation, this method you have to call. And is new, whether it is new session or old session, it will return. True means new session, old means false. False means old session. So whenever first request comes, if you call Boolean, true comes. Again, with the same client, if you call second request, if you send a second request, false comes. Already session created. Then false comes. Now, by default, sessions are vanished after 30 minutes in Tomcat server. If you want to set the time interval, go for this method. Okay. Now, these all methods, if you want to call, first HTTP session reference required. Okay. That reference how to get, I'll show you. Is it over? Now, Java P Jakarta dot Soulet dot HTTP dot HTTP Soulet request. Methods. Note down. See, get session, two methods. Get session, get session. Now, method name same, parameter list is different. This method is overloading or overriding? Overloading. These methods, if you want to call, HTTP solid request required. Okay. If you want to call first method, now what we have tried? HTTP session HS equal to request dot get session, either true or false you have to write. If you write true and if you write like this, both are same. So if you write true or if you call this method, these both are same, no change. What is this? See, it returns exists if the session, okay, 1 minute. If the session already exists, then it returns existed session. Otherwise, it creates a new session and returns. Alright, this one. So if you write like this or if you write like this, both are same. If the session already exists, then it returns existed session. Otherwise, it creates a new session and returns. If the session already exists, then it returns existed session. Otherwise, it creates a new session and returns. If the session already exists, then it returns existed session. Otherwise, it creates a new session and returns. Okay. Now, if I write like this, false. If I write like this, if the session already exists, then it returns existed session. Otherwise, it will not create new session. If the session already exists, then it returns existed session. Otherwise, it will not create. It will not create a new session. Otherwise, 1 minute, it will not create new session instead of writing this one. Otherwise, it returns exception. If the session already exists, then it returns existed session. Otherwise, it returns exception. Error comes. We don't create, but error comes. Say, for example, book program only, books program only, online shopping. It is set cookie, get cookie, like this you have seen. Set cookie, get cookie you have seen. Like this, what we are going to do is set session. Here get session. We are going to write. Whenever request comes to here, very first time, it has to create a session. Session created. After that, next hyperlink clicked. It is passed. Here, already the session created, no? That session only it has to return. And suppose directly if we send here, it should not create a session. Because this program, after setting session variable, then only for getting purpose we use. And if session is directly, control if directly comes to this page, it should not create session. If created, that session variable is wasted. Because after setting session only we can retry. So in this case, first program we have to write like this. Second program we have to write like this. But in first program also, second program also, if you write like this, program will work successfully. I'll show you with a diagram. Before that, first you see the methods how to call. First I'll show you the methods. That is, while teaching that program, I'll explain what's the difference. First, one small program I'll explain to get all methods. So first of all, I'll show you these all methods how to use. These all methods. So for calling this one, this is compulsory. Now either this or this we can use. But this one, if you write this one, new session is not created. If the session is there, returns, not there, exception. Say, suppose in basic programs only, I'll write one program. Right click, new, solid. Package name, suppose basics. Here, something demo solid. Okay, something demo solid. Next. Suppose here also I'll write demo. Next, okay, next. Get type request comes, do get, finish. Here just I'll call all the methods. Now, first of all, if you want to call HTTP session methods, either this method required or this method required. Now request dot get session. Suppose HTTP session HS equal to request dot get session. Now what this will do, suppose it is only one program. I'm sending request to demo solid. Then control comes here, it is executed and session not there. It will create and returns. Okay. Now after this, I want to retrieve the ID, whatever session it created, that is I want to retrieve. Then how to get ID? What is the method name? Get ID. Get ID method return type string. What we have tried? String sc equal to hs dot get ID. This ID I want to print. How to print? Print writer pw equal to response dot get writer. Pw dot println. Yes. Now instead of writing 2 lines, can I write 1 line? Yes. Here what we have tried? hs dot get ID. hs dot get ID. Here one message also I want to print. Session ID. Okay, session ID printed. Like this only, pw dot println session ID printed. After that, when it is created, I want to print. What we have tried? Suppose creation time. Then which method you have to call? hs dot get creation time. But get creation time returns which type? Long type. Long type if you print total time calculated in milliseconds, seconds format, that is printed. Milliseconds format. Milliseconds one number printed. Date and time is not printed. If you want to print this long as a parameter comes, no, this is you can pass as a parameter to date class constructor in util package. So I'll pass new date. Here I'll pass as a parameter. See, hs dot get creation time, it returns long. The long I pass it to date class constructor. Then here object created, time, date and time printed. Like this only, pw dot println last accessed time. Last accessed time. What we have tried? Again new date. In a date class constructor, we have to pass as a parameter. Here hs dot get last accessed time. Over. After this, pw dot println. Now suppose by default some time interval will be there. It is over, this is over, this is over. This is setting time interval. Okay, that will leave it. Getting time interval. Getting time interval, I want to print. Now here time interval. Time interval is now what you have tried? hs dot get max inactive interval. 30 minutes. 30 minutes, but it is return type integer. Seconds format comes. 30 minutes equivalent to 1800 seconds. So your time interval is seconds. Now 1800 seconds comes. 1800 seconds. This is later we'll see these three. Invalidate means vanished. Is new. True or false? Is it new session or old session? You want to confirm. New session. HS dot is new. True means new session. False means not old session. No. Date class available in util package, SQL package. Whichever date you want, that date. It's over. Now, if I run this program, this method called session ID created. With that ID printed, creation time printed, last accessor time printed, time interval printed, it is old or new printed. See, right click, run on server, save. Here, I given demo. You observe, I didn't write HTML code. That's what plain text displayed. Now you observe session ID. This is session ID. See, alphabets, numeric, alphanumeric. When it is created, Friday, March 31st, 4:41:37. When last accessed, same time. Time interval is 1800 seconds. Is it new session? Yes, true. Now what I'll do, I'll click refresh button. My request again passed. Then same ID will be there. Same creation time will be there. Last accessor time changed. As well as new session false. See, you observe. Here, creation time 4:41:37. Last accessor time 4:42:42. And new session false. This is a concept. So again, if I refresh, let us this last accessor time only changing. You observe. See, last accessor time changed. It is old session. Like this. Suppose here, if you write false here, if session already exists, it will returns true. It will returns. Otherwise, exception. Suppose I'll run, right click, run on server, save. Server restarted. Here, demo. You are getting error, null pointer exception. So here session is not there. It won't create new session. See, error came here. See, error came get ID place because session is not created here. If session is not created, HS contains null. With that, if you try to call method, exception, null pointer exception. So false, if you write, what will happen? Old session already running, that is returned. If it is not running, exception comes. Exception, why exception? Here you call methods. That's what exception. Okay. Otherwise, it won't create session, but session you cannot access. Now, if you write true, also, if you don't pass any parameter also, both are same. See, right click, run on server, save. See, demo. Created, no? See, another session created. You see. See, again, new session created, it is new session. Now, if you refresh, see, here time changed. 14 seconds, here 3 seconds. Here false. Like this. Like this, session methods. Now, if you write true also, If you don't write anything also, both are same. Write this one. This is only understanding methods I given. Program to demonstrate HDP session interface methods. Program to demonstrate HDP session interface methods. Okay, noted. Your ID displayed, your creation time displayed, your last accessed time displayed, your time interval displayed, whether it is old or new displayed. Is it over? So in this line ID created, that ID displayed. When it is when created, it will display. When last accessed, how much time interval given by default, and whether it is new or old. Is it completed? Now, this session tracking method can we implement independently? No. This session tracking method always depending on either cookies or URL rewriting, any one required. That's what I given yesterday notes. This session tracking method can be implemented in two ways. One is by using cookies, second one by using URL reading. Then we can call it as HTTP sessions with cookies, HTTP sessions with URL rewriting. Now first we will see HTTP sessions with cookies. Node HTTP sessions with cookies. HTTP sessions with cookies. In this session tracking method, client state information stored in session variables at server side. To maintain client state information at server side, web container creates a session ID and password to client system, password to client system, and stored in cookie variable at client side. To maintain client state information at server side, web container creates a session ID, password to client system, and stored in cookie variable at client side. So first you will see this one, HTTP sessions with cookies. Is it over? So client state information stored in session variables at server side. To maintain client state information at server side, session ID created, that ID passed to client system stored in cookie variable. That's what this name is, sessions with cookies. HTTP sessions with cookies. Now, it is web server. It is web client. Whenever first request comes, nothing but login request. What it will do is constructs a login response and creates a session ID. That ID comes here. Login response comes plus session ID comes. Here stores a session ID. Stores a session ID. After that, second request comes. With that, session ID also comes. Second request plus session ID. With that, it will understand whose client with that ID. So constructs second response. Just second response comes. Second response. Like this only. Third request. Third response. Like this only. Third response. At last, logout request. Logout request plus session ID. Now here vanishes session ID and constructs login response, logout response. Here logout response comes. Here also vanishes session ID. Note down this one, I'll explain. Vanishes session ID. Note down, I'll explain. Over. Is it completed? See, first of all, login request comes. Login response constructed. Very first time session created. Session creation required. That created that ID password to client system. Next time, whenever you select some books or items, anything with that ID, with that request, ID also comes. With that ID, it will understand it is old request and it is which user. That user understands, it will construct second response. Like this, server will send response to client. Again, request plus ID. Like this, n number of requests. At last, logout request plus ID comes. Session ID vanished. Logout response vanished. Now, in this server sending session ID to client system one time or many times. In this diagram, how many times server sending session ID to client system? One time or many times? One time only. Here, login response plus session ID. This time only comes. Here, second response I given. I didn't give ID, no. Here, logout response I given. I didn't give ID, no. How many times client sending client session ID to server? Many times. Very first time not there. Every time further is there. Second session ID, second request session ID, logout request session ID, like that. So, first time server will send to client. Second time onwards up to last, client will send to server. Okay. Now, very first time he'll log in. At the time ID not there. Created. That ID password. Next time you'll select some items here. Items comes, ID comes. With that only it will understand whose items. Response comes. Again you will select some items. Items comes, ID comes. With that only server will understand these items are this user. Like that. Whenever you send logout request, session vanished. And response comes. Then here also vanished. That type. Suppose whatever you studied cookies program, now this program only. Now what I will do, I won't create cookies. These items I'll store in server only. In server only I'll create. From here only I'll retrieve. Here I'll create set attribute. Here get attribute. But where it is stored? Server. Other people cannot see if it is stored in server. But all people items stored in server only. How to identify? Session ID. That's what ID required. Okay. Now, this is same program you are going to see with sessions. File, new dynamic web project. Sessions. Next, XML, finish. Right click, new HTML. Books.html. Next, finish. Same HTML I'm not going to change as it is. This HTML only I'll copy. Here I'll paste. So here everything URL pattern, request parameters as it is, no change. Okay. Now right click, new, solid, sessions, package name, class name, set session, package name, set session. Next, URL pattern, set. Okay. Next, dogit. Now here from HTML page, first you have to retrieve. Now what do you have to write? Which method? Get parameter. Request dot get parameter. Parameter name book1. Parameter name is book1. Okay. Now same string s2 equal to request dot get parameter. Parameter name is book2. Next string s3 request dot get parameter book3. Now first all items retrieved. Okay. These all I'm going to add to session variables. Now all items I'll add. Now these all items we have to add to session variables. We required HTTP session. What we have to write? HS equal to request dot get session. Now here suppose very first time new session required. That's what it has to create. If not there, it has to create. This is only required. HS dot set attribute. Attribute parameters you observe. First parameter string, second parameter object. String book1. Object place s1. Now s1 which type? Here which type required? Object type. Is it valid or not valid? It is Eclipse immediately shows error if it error is there. That's the reason core Java without Eclipse I taught. In core Java, if I teach like this, no one will get a subject. That is the reason core Java without Eclipse I taught. In Eclipse, what will happen? Valid or not valid, immediately shows. Is valid or not valid? Valid. How it is valid? Actual parameter is object class. Which type I passed? String type. How it is valid? String is a subclass of object class with upcasting feature valid. Okay. Now HS dot set attribute book2 s2 HS dot set attribute. That's what core Java without Eclipse you have to study. You'll get a more knowledge. Core Java only if you use Eclipse, you will not get a subject. Interaction also not possible. I cannot ask question. If you seeing that error red line only, you'll give answer. Valid or not valid also. Interaction is not possible. Now, here set attribute, set attribute, set attribute. All items added, whether you select or not, added. After that, your books are added to cart. Next. Then print writer, PW equal to response dot get writer. PW dot println. Your books are added to cart. PW dot println anchor tag, next hyperlink, If we click hyperlink reference, get. You can add some other code, HTML code. See, here books retrieved, all added. Your books are added to cart. Next hyperlink, get. This is set session.java. Write this program. Set session.java. Here all parameters, request parameter received, all parameters added. Later I'll check whether selected or not selected. Is it completed? Here set attribute method not completed. Set attribute method, how many parameters? 2 parameter. First parameter which type? I passed string type. Second parameter which type? Object type. I passed string type. Okay. String assigned to object. That is called upcasting. Here, if selected, book name will be there. Java to complete reference set for Java, that is. Not selected, null will be there. Here, null stored in object format. Because object is a parameter, no? Null assigned to object format. Here, while retrieving. Completed? Now, while retrieving, you see, right click, new, solid. Sessions, get session. Okay. Next, here, URL pattern, get. Okay. Next, get type request, finish. Here, we have to retrieve from session. We have to retrieve from session. Get attribute method we have to call. See the notes. Get attribute method. Return type. Object is there. Return type object is there. Okay. For calling that method, first HTTP session required. What we have to write? HTTP session HS equal to request dot get session. Here, true required or false required. Already session already created. That value we are returning. If directly request comes, no, it should not create session because data will not be there. So what we have to write? False we have to write. Because after executing that program, this program executed. But here also new session if you create, it is no use. Existed session you have to return. If session is not there, you have to stop here only. Okay. That's what false. Now object returns. But I am writing string. Is it valid? HS dot get attribute. Get attribute book 1. Is it valid? Now HS dot get attribute book 1. Is it valid or not valid? Now actually here first this error is there. That's what the error not showing. Okay. See. That error I given. Here. So seeing that Eclipse you are giving answer. First that is not imported. That is the reason that error displayed. After importing this error displayed. Now it is downcasting. Now It returns object class object. Object class assigned to string class. It is downcasting. When downcasting valid? Upcasting already over. Next. Here explicit type conversion required. No? Here string. Then valid. Otherwise error. Downcasting must be done by programmer explicitly. Otherwise compile time error occurs. Okay. Now. String s2 equal to string. hs dot get attribute. Book 2. String s3. String. hs dot get attribute. Book 3. Here. Now, here, object format literal comes if not selected. Selected, book value comes. Not selected, object literal comes. Object literal stored in object or object reference. Question only different angle I'm asking. Object literal null stored in object or object reference. Object reference. Then whether it is null or not null, how to check? Method or operator? Operator. S1 not equal to null. If S1 not equal to null, we have to display. If S2 not equal to null, we have to display. S3 not equal to null, we have to display. Here, print writer, response dot get writer, pw dot println s1 plus line break, pw dot println s2 plus line break, pw dot println s3 line break. Here, other HTML code you can attach. pw dot println HTML body bg color text pw dot println level 1 heading underline text selected books. At last, you have to close pw dot println body close HTML close. See here. Here, two programs are there. Set session, get session. Here, through this program, I added variables in server. Through this program, I retrieved. So here set attribute, here get attribute. Set attribute, get attribute. Set attribute, upcasting. Get attribute, downcasting. Downcasting must be done by programmer. That's what we written like this. Okay. And also here, client system send the request to this one, HTML program selected. Here items added, stored in server, retrieved. Here it has to create session, but here it should not create session because this session only we are asking. That is the reason I given false. Now, if you write true also, program successfully runs because if it is there, that is written, not there creates. That is the reason if you write for true also, program will run successfully. Suppose client system directly if we send the request to this servlet, then session created, that session wasted. Actually, after this program only, this program should execute. Reason, set attribute here, get attribute here. But directly if we call this program, what will happen? Get attribute, data not there, error comes. That is the reason like that. Now, see here, right click, run on server, save, save. Here, books.html. Okay. Select the books. Click submit button. Your books are added to cart. Next. Selected books. But now, these books where it is stored? Server. To identify the client, ID created. ID where it is stored? Client, cookie. But I didn't write any code for cookie. By default, cookie created. You can see that. Session ID is stored in cookie variable. See, here one ID created. See, J session ID. This ID. So, ID is stored in cookie variable. That is the reason this session tracking method name is called HTTP sessions with cookies. Now, your books are stored in stored at server session variables in server side, but ID is created and passed to client system stored in cookie variable client side. Even anybody copy this cookie, this session ID, nothing will happen. That is for only this browser. If anybody copy, if they send also, it doesn't work. This ID only for this browser. This ID, this particular time only works. Later also it doesn't work. Okay. So this ID will be unique. Suppose whenever you open mailbox, one ID created. That ID, that particular client only, that particular time only works. Okay. Like ID, later if they copy also no use. If anybody see that ID, later if they copy also nothing will happen. But your data, confidential data is going to be stored in server now. Server side we can store. But ID only created in client side stored. With that ID, they cannot do anything. Okay. Here, in this program, set session program, here, these books are retrieved from HTML page. Okay. In this line, session ID created. And these are passed to that session. Now, here, second parameter, object. Object place S1, S2, S3 I given, string type. So, upcasting. Here, I retrieved get cookie, get attribute. Then downcasting. It returns object converted to string, then assigned. Downcasting. Explicit type conversion required. That's what I converted. Okay. Later, if it is not equal to null, I printed. Like this I given. Okay. This is third session tracking method, HTTP sessions with cookies. But one more is there, HTTP session with URL rating. One more is there, hidden form fields. And what is the difference between that one, this one, this all? I'll explain, not completed. Tomorrow, we'll see continuation. This program also you can write tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll see.